Alright, so the next muscle that we can do is the lat, coming from the lumbars, going up to the humerus. It's an internal rotator and adductor, so this is what Conrad's already showing. He's internally rotating, he's keeping this arm straight. He's not doing this because he'll be recruiting. He's doing this so you get more isolation for the lat. So internal rotation, stabilize at the elbow, or I'm sorry, at the shoulder, and I'm going to be pulling out in this angle along with the fibers of lat and obviously in an arc. So go ahead and press in. And it's good to have the patient engage just a little bit of the extension and then you just pull. Okay. Okay, so the next one is rhomboids. We're going to have him go slightly above 90 here. We're going to extend back, so we're shortening the muscle fiber of rhomboids. And so I'm going to be stabilizing his anterior shoulder here and at his elbow, and I'm going to be pulling around. So I'm going to ask him to push back into my elbow, and I do this. Push back into my elbow, and that's the motion.
You said it twice. Push back into my elbow.
They know what I'm saying. Okay, so the next one we can do is levator. So Conrad rotates his head away, drops this shoulder down, and again he gets his arm into this position. We extend, and it's going to be the same vector essentially from the rhomboids. Just like that. Okay, so we just put Conrad prone now. We're going to muscle test a couple prone that are related to the shoulder. One is teres major, which we know has very similar actions to the lat dorsi. So we're going to have him bring up bilaterally both his arms in a flex position at the elbow. Put both knuckles, or fists so to speak, just on either side of the lumbar spine. And this one is extremely important to get not only a crossed arm, but also the, what am I trying to say, the vector, right? If you push straight out, you'll miss it. If you get the, just blank. Make sure that the vector is in a rounded. So we bring him slightly up like this. I put my left arm on his right elbow, my right hand on his left elbow, and he presses up into my hand, and that's the vector. If we did like this, press, I missed that. That's going to test strong. But because we do this and change the vector just a little bit, it's enough. And that's the art of muscle testing. Okay, so the next one we'll do is there. That's right. We'll show teres major. We just showed it bilaterally. Let's show it unilaterally. So we'll bring his right one up here. I'm just going to stabilize on his back just like this. And once again, I'm going to try to get that proper arc. And so I'm going to have him press up with his elbow into my hand. And I'm pressing down. Go ahead. And that's it. Simple. Okay, for the mid-trap, we're going to line the arm up, thumbs up, right in line with the fibers, right? Where he's going to rotate his head towards the arm that we're testing. So now we're further isolating this. I'm going to stabilize on the other side so I'm not messing with the current muscle being tested. And then I'm going to be pressing down in an arc, not straight down. And also remember, this is a long lever muscle, so even if this muscle was being fully recruited, I mean, I could just blow through this. I mean, he'd have no chance. So that's why the art of muscle testing is to match whatever the patient gives you and then give a little bit more. So press up into my hand, and then that's the vector, okay? So moving right along, right into lower trap, the fibers, as you know, is that diamond-shaped trapezius. So we line it up, thumbs up again, head still turned. I'm going to stabilize on the other side of his spine, and I'm going to be pressing down and a little bit in. So press up into my hand, and it's always patient-initiated muscle testing. So press up, bam. Okay, so we're going to be testing the pectoralis major muscles. We have two divisions. We have a clavicular, and we have a pec major sternal. So we'll call it PMC, pec major clavicular. We'll also call it PMS, not to be confused with what we think. So pec major sternal division. So we'll start with the pec major clavicular division right now. The arm goes straight up. It's fully extended, and it's going to be slightly internally rotated. So I'm going to stabilize just below the wrist. We never want to stabilize into a joint, because that will mess with the muscle, especially if there's an injury here. I'm going to stabilize his contralateral shoulder, and I'm pressing down and out and down in an arc. Not straight out, not like straight down, but out in an arc. So press towards this, good. And that's it. So basically we're shortening the fibers here and we're going right along them, okay? So now with the pec major sternal, we can still use this arm. I'm going to move over here so I can get right in line with the sternal fibers so we can further isolate this big muscle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stabilize just below the ASIS on the patient, and I'm going to have them press. I usually tell them to bring their arm towards their hip. So pressing them, and then you're going that way. So you're pressing out and in an arc. That's pec major sternal division. Now, pec minor is a fun muscle in that you shrug it up a little bit and then you roll it forward, okay? What you want to do with this one, because it can be very overpowered, the patient can overpower you, is make sure that you have your vector going basically down, out, and around. So I'm going to have my arm right in line and I'm going to have him press into me, and the vector is going that way, and that's pec minor. That should be it. Okay, so the next series of muscles we'll be testing is from basically the elbow down. We addressed the shoulder, we addressed the neck. Now let's move into the forearm as all the muscles around there. So first one up is forearm extensors or wrist extensors. So basically we want the arm straight like this so he can't recruit. I'm basically going to get in there into his arm so he can't recruit anything. I'm going to bring his wrist back into extension, and then see how my forearm is basically lined up, and I'm going to be forcing this action. I'm not going straight, I'm going in an arc. So go ahead and press back into me, and that's the motion. This is a tough muscle to test if you don't do it right. So press back here, and bam, just like that. So pretty simple once you get the vector right. So the next one is going to be wrist flexors. So we're going to have the arm like this, flex like this, and actually, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. Here, we'll show it from this angle. So we'll set him in here, and it's very important to get your forearm in the vector that you want to get. So I'm going to almost try to have my arm like this, and then I'm going to be unflexing his wrist. So pressing my hand here, and that's basically the motion. Bam. So it's not going to be straight out, because I'll miss it. But when I get the arc, it immediately changes it. So next muscle is going to be brachioradialis. It's an elbow flexor. So we shorten the muscle just above 90 degrees at the elbow, and basically I'm going to stabilize right under his elbow. I'm going to get my forearm in line with the vector that I want, and I'm going to have him flex up into my hand, and I'm pressing down in an arc. And that will be the range of motion for that. So the next one is brachialis. Now brachialis is different than biceps brachii because biceps brachii engages during supination of the forearm. So we pronate the forearm and we get an isolation of the brachialis muscle. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm stabilizing under the elbow like this. I'm getting my arm in line with how I want the vector to go, and I'm going to have him actively flex into my hand, and I go down in an arc. And that's brachialis. Cool? Okay, the next couple muscles for the wrist will be this one is the supinator. So we extend the arm just like Conrad's doing. I'm going to give him basically a hand squeeze, and I'm going to be actively engaging this motion. So it's basically just a rotation into pronation while he tries to hold the supination, which is the supinator muscle's action. So go ahead and hold in the supination, and I rotate. And you'll either feel a lock or you'll feel a give, just like that. So the next two, which would be the antagonist, is pronator teres from the medial olecranon, if you will. And so I'm going to be resisting his pronation. So I'm basically trying to engage supination, and he will be resisting, which is the pronator teres' action. So once again, at the elbow here, and pronate. And I do that. Okay? Now, we can also go further up the chain and get pronator quadratus. and basically engage his elbow into slightly more flexion, which changes the vector at which the muscles are firing. So again, under the elbow here, and you try to pronate into my hand, Conrad, and I supinate at the wrist, and that will engage pronator quadratus. The big one, especially with carpal tunnel, I know that we're not going into treatment stuff, but is opponent's pollicis, opponent's digitimidity, what distinguishes us from apes. So basically, I'm going to stabilize in the muscle bellies here, and I'm going to have him basically do this action, which is opponents, right? Our opposition is the fancy word. These kids these days. All right, press in, and I'm going to go out. So once again, I'm not going straight out, I'm going out in an arc. So once again, we'll show it, press, and if, okay. So he's going to squeeze in together, and I'm going to go out in an arc. Okay.